At 4:17 in the morning, the Arabian Sea is still covered in darkness. There is no sunrise, no visible horizon, only the wind moving across steel and the steady pressure of water pushing against the hull of a U.S. Navy destroyer traveling through open sea under controlled emissions. On the bridge, the crew speaks quietly. In the Combat Information Center, every eye is locked on glowing screens and shifting symbols. At first, it feels like any other watch, routine, controlled, predictable. Then the picture changes. One small contact appears on radar. It is slow, low, and almost easy to miss. Then another appears. Then a third. 3 separate air tracks, all low, all inbound, each coming from a slightly different angle. Close enough to be connected, spread wide enough to create a serious problem. No transponder, no friendly signal, no civilian flight pattern. Just 3 unknown aircraft moving over dark water toward an American destroyer. The watch supervisor leans closer to the display. New low-altitude air contacts, multiple tracks, bearing 089 to 101. On the bridge, the officer of the deck reacts immediately. Bridge copies. The symbols tighten on the screen. These are not commercial aircraft, not helicopters. Too small, too steady, too precise in the way they hold their path. Their speed is not extreme, but their movement is disciplined. They are not drifting. They are coming with purpose, and purpose changes the atmosphere inside the ship. No one raises their voice. They do not need to. This is an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer built for moments exactly like this. Radar is tracking. Electronic systems are listening. Defensive systems are quiet only in the technical sense. The ship does not panic, it calculates. The recommendation comes quickly. Increase alert posture. Make it happen, CIC answers. Across the destroyer, the shift is immediate and almost silent. Sailors move faster. Headsets go on. Consoles glow brighter. Procedures learned through months of training and trusted through years of repetition begin unfolding in order. No wasted motion, no shouting, just a combat system waking up in the dark. The 3 contacts keep closing. One operator tightens the track filter. Another checks altitude. Very low. Sea skimming, low. That matters. Objects flying that close to the water can use the curve of the Earth and the clutter of the sea to reduce reaction time. They stay hard to see until the last possible moment, then force the ship to solve the problem fast. Still no IFF, one controller says. Any communications? The tactical action officer asks. Negative. The captain arrives without drama. He steps onto the bridge, looks once at the watch team, then at the display repeaters. What do we have? 3 low air contacts, Captain. No transponder, no response. Inbound, coordinated geometry. That final phrase hangs in the air. Coordinated geometry, not random movement, not one UAV off course. 3 tracks shaping themselves around the destroyer's projected path. 1 near the center line, 2 widening left and right, almost as if they are testing how the ship will react before fully committing. It is the kind of movement that removes optimism very quickly. The captain studies the numbers. Hold course for now. I want to see their corrections. It is a difficult order, but a smart one. If the destroyer turns too early, the aircraft might simply be passing traffic. But if the ship holds steady and the contacts adjust with it, intent becomes harder to dismiss. So for a few more seconds, the destroyer keeps her heading. The bow cuts through the dark sea while 3 unknown contacts close in. Inside CIC, the answer comes fast. They're correcting. No hesitation, no delay. All 3 tracks shift with the ship. That is enough. Bridge, CIC, contacts are matching own ship movement. The captain gives one short nod. Very well. Set condition. Prepare electronic warfare. Bring close-in defense to ready status. The order moves through the ship like current through steel. Mounts begin to orient. Sensors cross-cue. Electronic systems listen harder, searching for control links, emissions, or any hint of guidance. Out on the weather deck, sailors stare into the darkness and still see almost nothing. But inside the ship, everyone understands the same truth. This is real. Infrared finds the lead contact first. A faint shape. Straight wing. Compact body. No navigation lights. No attempt to identify itself. It is not large enough to look impressive. Not loud enough to seem dramatic. Just small, deliberate, and headed directly toward a U.S. destroyer before dawn. Possible UAV, CIC reports. The second appears on infrared moments later, lower and farther to the right. The third remains harder to hold, slipping through sea clutter and thermal distortion. But the track is stable enough to keep watching. 3 UAVs, not 1. Then they change formation again. The center aircraft increases speed slightly. The left contact drifts wider. The right one stays disciplined and extremely low, almost level with the tops of the waves. This is no longer a simple inbound picture. It is a bracket, a spread designed to divide attention and force defensive systems to think in angles instead of one straight line. The operators have seen enough exercises and enough threat briefings to understand what that means. This was planned. No speech follows that realization, no dramatic pause. Only a sharper edge in every report. Range decreasing, track quality firm, EW still searching, mount ready. The captain keeps his eyes on the display. Hold engagement, I want one more confirmation. He gets it seconds later. The destroyer makes a slight course adjustment, only a few degrees, barely enough to disturb the wake. All 3 contacts turn with her. Now there is nothing left to interpret. The tactical action officer looks up from the console and states it plainly. Multiple inbound UAVs' intent appears coordinated. And in the dark Arabian Sea, with sunrise still hidden beyond the horizon, a U.S. Navy destroyer prepares to respond. The first turn is small, barely visible on the display, and hardly noticeable in the wake. But inside CIC, everyone sees it. The destroyer shifts course a few degrees to starboard. Not enough to announce concern. Not enough to break the rhythm of the ship. Just enough to test the picture. Just enough to force the inbound tracks to reveal whether they are passing by or following. For 1 second, the 3 UAVs hold their original paths. Then all 3 move. Not in a perfect mirrored turn. That would have been easier to read. Instead, each one corrects in its own way. The lead contact tightens first, sliding back toward the destroyer's projected bow. The left-hand contact widens farther out, building angle. The right-hand contact drops even lower, disappearing in and out of the sea clutter like it is trying to hide inside the radar noise. That is the answer. Not drifting, not confused. Tracking. Bridge, CIC, all 3 contacts corrected with own ship maneuver. No one on the bridge asks what it means. They already know. The captain stands behind the consoles, one hand resting lightly on the chart table. His eyes remain fixed on the repeater. Outside the windows, the Arabian Sea is still black. Outside, there is almost nothing to see. Inside, the picture is getting worse by the second. Set defensive posture, he says. Electronic warfare up. Close-in systems ready. Hold engagement. Those final words matter. Hold engagement. That is discipline. That is how a naval crew stays in control when someone else is trying to rush the timeline. Too early and you waste your best response on the wrong target. Too late and you surrender the initiative. The margin sits somewhere between those 2 points, measured in seconds and judgment. Below decks, the destroyer responds instantly. Consoles brighten, headsets tighten. Operators lean toward their screens as though focus alone can shorten distance. The electronic warfare suite begins probing the space around the contacts, searching for command links, uplink bursts, control frequencies, or anything that might reveal who is guiding them. Still no positive emitter source, EW reports. Any jamming effect? The tactical action officer asks. Negative so far. That means the UAVs are either autonomous enough to stay on path through disruption, or someone beyond the horizon is controlling them through a cleaner link than the ship can immediately break. Neither answer is comforting. Infrared sharpens on the lead contact. A small body, straight wing, stabilized nose, compact engine signature. This is not a hobby aircraft. Not random, not improvised. It was built to fly low, steady, and directly toward a target that would prefer more warning than this. The center contact increases speed first, not dramatically, just enough to separate itself from the other 2 and force the ship to start thinking about priority. The destroyer's systems begin ranking the threats. Speed, angle, distance, probability of impact, possible payload. Everything updates live second by second, with no space for wishful thinking. Lead track increasing speed. How much? Incremental but deliberate. The left UAV keeps pushing wider, opening the geometry. The right one stays dangerously low, riding so close to the surface that every swell threatens to hide it for half a heartbeat. That is the contact the operators dislike most. High enough to track, low enough to disappear. Coming from an angle that could split the ship's attention if the situation gets more serious. The captain gives another small helm order. Again, the destroyer moves only slightly. Again, the UAVs answer, this time faster, no hesitation, no lag. The lead tightens. The right-hand contact cuts inward. The left one holds its wider lane, as if preserving a separate approach path. It is no longer 3 unknown aircraft moving toward a ship. It is a coordinated pattern designed to make one destroyer solve 3 problems at once. Confirmed coordinated threat behavior, CIC says. The bridge stays quiet for half a beat. Then the tactical action officer speaks. Recommend soft response first. Test the network. The captain nods. Do it. Electronic warfare pushes harder. Invisible energy reaches into the darkness, trying to disrupt signal, distort command, break timing, or force one of the contacts to wander off path. For a moment, the center track wobbles, only slightly, enough for one operator to catch it. Center track deviation, then it recovers. Back on course, back inbound. Contact stabilized, EW reports. Minimal disruption. Calm voice. Bad news. The UAVs are not fragile. They were built to absorb interference, at least long enough to stay dangerous. That means the destroyer may have only one clean solution left, and everyone in CIC understands it. On the bridge wing, a lookout finally sees something with the naked eye. A faint moving point low above the waterline. No blinking light, no strobe. Just a dark, hard shape where no aircraft should be. Visual contact. The close-in defensive mounts are already trained near bearing. Motors hum, stabilizers lock. Automated systems are ready, but they are waiting for the same thing the humans are waiting for. Certainty. Which target matters most, and when. The center UAV surges again. The left contact begins cutting inward from its wider arc. The right-hand contact drops so low that for one breath it disappears beneath the radar floor, then reappears closer than anyone wants. The geometry becomes clear all at once. The center contact is the pressure point. The left one is the distraction. The low right contact is the real danger if the ship guesses wrong. Range collapsing, CIC says. Multiple vectors. Approach profile consistent. The captain does not move. Engagement criteria? Seconds away. The destroyer makes one more tiny heading adjustment. All three UAVs correct immediately. That is the final proof. The tactical action officer lifts his eyes from the screen. His voice stays level, but now it has weight behind it. Stand by to engage. The range collapses quickly. Inside CIC, numbers fall faster than the eye wants to follow. Bearings update, speed gates tighten, threat boxes flash across the display. Outside, the Arabian Sea is still dark enough to hide shape and distance. But no one on board needs the horizon anymore. The engagement is already inside the ship's systems. The center UAV crosses the line first, not the closest yet, but the most obvious. The one driving directly into the destroyer's forward sector with enough speed to force a response and enough discipline to look intentional. It is the kind of target designed to grab attention. Center track inside engagement criteria, CIC reports. The captain does not waste a word. Engage. The response is immediate. A close-in defensive mount snaps the final fraction of a degree, locks, and sends a controlled burst into the darkness. The sound rolls across the ship like steel tearing through the morning air. Tracers cut low over black water. For 1 second, the UAV is only a shape on infrared, a small hot body holding course as if nothing can stop it. Then it breaks apart. A bright flash. Fragments scatter outward in a brief orange-white bloom before dropping into the sea. No cinematic display, no drawn-out moment, just a fast, precise neutralization. On the bridge, no one celebrates. There is no time. Splash one, CIC reports. At that exact moment, the right-hand UAV drops even lower. It had been living inside sea clutter from the beginning, using the water itself to distort the radar picture. Now, with attention pulled toward the first intercept, it makes its move. Its track compresses, its angle sharpens. It is no longer flanking. It is driving in, fast, low, and very close to the place where radar and horizon become difficult partners. Low contact closing, bearing 096. The destroyer begins a slight turn, not enough to unbalance the ship, just enough to spoil the final approach geometry. On the displays, the adjustment is tiny. In real distance and timing, it matters. The close-in system swings again. This time, the window is shorter. The UAV is hugging the wavetop so tightly that every swell threatens to hide it for half a second. Operators fight the picture, locking and relocking as the contact flickers through clutter. Track unstable. Hold, hold. Then infrared catches it clean. Track firm. The mount responds. A second defensive burst cuts low across the sea, so close to the waterline that it seems to skim the surface. For a split second, the UAV remains intact. Then the rounds reach it. Metal flashes outward, a heavier piece tumbles once, twice, then disappears into the water so close to the destroyer that sailors on deck hear fragments hit sea and steel almost together. Splash 2, CIC says, louder this time, but the third UAV is already moving. It never committed like the others. It stayed wide. It watched. It let the destroyer reveal priorities, angles, response timing, and defensive cues. Now with two UAVs gone, it turns inward from the flank in a hard descending arc, aiming not at the center line, but at a sector that had been quiet only seconds earlier. That one was waiting, the tactical action officer says. He is right. The last UAV is not improvising. It is exploiting. It allowed the first two contacts to pull attention and timing while it searched for an opening. That makes it the smartest threat of the three, and now it is the most serious one left. The captain's voice stays flat. Shift all available sensors. I want that track clean. Electronic warfare pushes again. Harder now, filling the air around the inbound UAV with disruption. For one moment, the contact twitches. Its nose wanders a few degrees offline. Then it stabilizes and keeps coming. Minimal effect. The UAV drops lower, then pops slightly upward, as if correcting for wave height. That tiny climb makes the difference. Radar gets a better return. Infrared sharpens. The system finally sees enough. Track locked. Engage. The mount turns. The UAV angles. For one impossible second, machine and target seem to move in the same rhythm, each trying to reach the decisive point first. Then, the destroyer wins. A controlled burst reaches out and cuts through the UAV at close range. The flash is brighter this time, not because the target is larger, but because it is nearer. White sparks, burning fragments, and shattered airframe pieces tumble across the dark just outside the ship's danger zone. Debris drops into the wake and vanishes behind the stern. Splash 3. For half a heartbeat, silence follows. No more inbound tracks on the immediate screen. No impact, no damage, no shock moving through the hull, only the fading sound of defensive systems, the hum of equipment, and a ship still fully operational in open water before dawn. But inside CIC, the pause does not last. Captain, EW says, voice tight but controlled. We have post-engagement emissions. The bridge turns at once. Source? Unclear. Short bursts beyond the horizon. Possibly relay or command link. That changes everything. The 3 UAVs had not arrived blindly. Someone had observed them. Someone had guided, monitored, or at the very least listened while they closed in on an American destroyer in the dark. Operators begin pulling timestamps, matching emissions to UAV maneuvers, rebuilding the entire incident in reverse. And as they do, a harder truth forms inside the room. The UAVs were only the part they could see. The captain looks back to the display, where the final fragments of the engagement have already disappeared into the black Arabian Sea. Keep every sensor hot, he says. We're not done, because the destroyer has survived the approach. Now it is searching for the eyes behind it. No one relaxes after the 3rd UAV falls. Not on the bridge, not in CIC, not anywhere aboard. 3 successful intercepts in the dark should have released some of the pressure. Instead, the pressure simply changes shape. Because in modern naval operations, 3 inbound UAVs do not appear out of empty ocean by accident. Somebody launched them. Somebody guided them. Somebody watched the engagement unfold in real time and learned from every second of it. Inside CIC, the tactical picture resets quickly. The immediate air threat is gone, but the electronic warfare team is now hearing something else. Short bursts. Directional. Faint but too consistent to ignore. Not random civilian traffic, not merchant chatter, not ordinary background noise. The pulses come from beyond the visible horizon, stop, then return again from almost the same sector. EW to TAO, intermittent post-engagement emissions, bearing 083. The tactical action officer turns. Strength? Weak, controlled. Looks like short-duration transmission, possibly relay. Possibly relay. That phrase lands hard. It means the UAVs may have had help staying coordinated. It means the incident might not have ended with 3 splashes. It means the real target now is not what broke apart over the water. It is whatever stayed hidden long enough to believe it could get away. The captain does not hesitate. Launch the helo. On the flight deck, the order arrives quickly. The MH-60 Seahawk crew is already moving. Rotor blades unlock. Safety crews clear the deck. Under red safe lamps, the helicopter powers up as the first thin edge of pre-dawn gray begins to spread across the eastern sky. The destroyer holds steady, but the mood aboard has shifted. This is no longer defense. This is pursuit. The Seahawk lifts cleanly, nose low, and pushes out over dark water. Inside the helicopter, the crew settles into the mission. This is not passive reconnaissance. This is a search for the hidden observer behind the coordinated approach. FLIR comes alive. Surface radar scans ahead in disciplined sweeps. Every contact, every wake, every heat source is checked, sorted, and compared. Back aboard the destroyer, CIC starts stitching the timeline together. UAV-1 accelerated first. UAV-2 stayed low and masked itself in sea clutter. UAV-3 held outside the engagement zone, waited, then committed only after the ship revealed part of its defensive pattern. That is not the behavior of 3 simple machines flying without guidance. They were managed, one analyst says quietly. No one argues. The Seahawk crosses 10 miles from the ship and begins searching the sector where the emissions were strongest. For a moment, the sea looks empty. Just dark water, rolling movement, and scattered whitecaps catching the first weak light of morning. Then the sensor operator sees something. Possible surface contact. On the helo screen, it begins as a smudge. Small hull, low profile, heat trace aft. No visible navigation lights, no AIS return. Not a merchant lane transit, not normal fishing behavior. Just one vessel sitting where no ordinary vessel has much reason to be. Beyond the horizon from the destroyer. Close enough to matter, quiet enough to vanish if nobody came looking. Mark that contact, the pilot says. The Seahawk banks slightly and lowers altitude. Back on the destroyer, the bearing lines begin to connect. The ship's own sensors compare the helicopter feed with the last known emissions. The geometry starts to match. The surface contact is almost exactly where a relay or observer craft would need to be in order to monitor the coordinated UAV approach without exposing itself too early. Bridge, CIC, surface contact now correlated with EW sector. The captain studies the data for less than a second. Keep tracking. No warning yet. Warnings change behavior. Right now, the destroyer wants truth, not theater. The Seahawk closes another few miles. FLIR sharpens. The outline becomes clearer. A small vessel, probably built for speed with an unusual deck arrangement. Not openly threatening from this distance, but not innocent looking either. Aft, there is a structure that could be an antenna cluster, a mass package, or an improvised communications rig. The kind of equipment that suggests this boat came out here to do more than drift. Contact is altering course, the helo crew reports. That matters too. The vessel had been nearly stationary. Now it is moving, not fast, not panicked, just enough to leave the area before anyone can pin it down cleanly. To trained crews, that kind of movement is easy to recognize. It is not surprise. It is evasion dressed as routine seamanship. The captain orders a turn, not aggressive, just enough to begin cutting off open water ahead of the contact. The destroyer does not rush. It boxes. That is the difference between panic and control. The Seahawk descends lower, staying offset rather than crossing directly overhead. Through the camera, figures become visible on deck. One near the stern, another moving around the central structure. A third bent over something fixed in place, possibly a console, a communications unit, or equipment they now badly want powered down before American optics get too close. Deck activity observed. Multiple personnel. Still no flag. Still no AIS. Still no explanation for why a small vessel with apparent communications equipment had been sitting beyond the horizon while 3 UAVs moved in a coordinated pattern toward a U.S. destroyer. Now the warning goes out. Unknown vessel, this is United States Navy aircraft. You are being monitored. State your identity and intentions immediately. Nothing. The helo repeats the call. Still nothing. The vessel changes heading again, this time more sharply. Enough to confirm what everyone already suspects. It is not confused. It is trying to break contact before the destroyer can close the trap. Inside CIC, the tactical picture resolves into one clean conclusion. The UAVs were the visible package. This vessel was the observer. The captain looks at the plot, then at the widening gray line of dawn spreading over the Arabian Sea. Track it, he says. Box it in. Do not let it disappear. The small vessel does not stop at first. It tries to leave cleanly. Not fast enough to look desperate. Not slow enough to invite inspection. Just a careful turn to the southeast, bow cutting across pale gray water as dawn finally gives shape to the sea. From far away, someone might mistake it for a routine contact heading home after a long night offshore. The U.S. Navy destroyer does not make that mistake. On the bridge, the captain watches the plot tighten in real time. The MH-60 holds its offset orbit overhead, feeding live video, infrared, and surface movement back to the ship. In CIC, the crew overlays the vessel's new course with the earlier emissions, the UAV approach vectors, and the timing of each maneuver. The lines do not merely suggest a connection, they lock together. Contact is maneuvering away from the engagement zone, CIC reports. Understood, the captain says. Maintain pressure. That is exactly what the destroyer does. Not a reckless rush. Not a cinematic charge across open water. Pressure. Controlled. Measured. Unmistakable. The warship adjusts course to close the angle ahead of the contact, not directly behind it. That matters. Following from the stern gives a vessel room. A boxed approach takes options away. The Seahawk moves lower. At this distance, the camera sees more than shape. It sees behavior. 3 men are now clearly visible on deck. One near the stern keeps looking up toward the helicopter. Another moves between a covered structure and a cluster of mounted equipment. The third appears to be pulling at cables or protective covers, working quickly, shoulders tight, like someone trying to erase evidence before anyone gets close enough to understand it. Possible equipment manipulation on deck, the helo crew reports. That is all the captain needs to hear. Challenge again. The Seahawk broadcasts in clear English, then repeats the message in another commonly used maritime warning channel for the region. Identify yourself, state your intentions, prepare to comply with further instructions. The answer is silence. No flag raised, no radio response, no AIS activation, no innocent explanation arriving late. Instead, the small vessel reduces speed. The change is subtle, but every sailor watching knows what it means. The crew aboard that vessel now understands the geometry. The destroyer is no longer simply following, it is controlling the space. Open water is shrinking. Every mile they travel is another mile, under American optics, American radar, and American recording systems. The destroyer closes enough for long-range optics to join the helicopter feed. Now the vessel fills screens across the ship. The deck layout looks unusual for local traffic. Too clean in some places, too improvised in others. The aft structure appears to hold more than basic navigation gear. Antennas, antenna mounts, and cabling are visible, none of it looking like standard equipment for an ordinary working boat. Inside CIC, analysts replay the earlier approach again. UAV-1 accelerated to seize attention. UAV-2 masked itself low. UAV-3 held outside, then committed late after the ship revealed its defensive logic. That kind of coordination requires observation, timing, and discipline. It requires someone close enough to see what the UAVs could not. Someone like the boat now losing room under the morning sky. Captain, the tactical action officer says, confidence is high this vessel supported the incident. The captain does not answer immediately. He studies the screen, the bearing lines, and the slow reduction in the contact's options. Then he says, keep recording, everything. Because this moment is not only tactical, it is evidentiary. Every second matters now. Every deck movement, every course change, every ignored warning, every visible hand reaching for a cable, a cover, or a console. In modern naval operations, dominance is not always about force. Sometimes the stronger move is exposure. Sometimes the real victory is forcing the other side into the open and taking away its ability to deny what it was doing. The small vessel reduces speed again, this time more noticeably. The Seahawk holds position where the crew can see it. No dramatic escalation, no unnecessary display, just presence. Rotor wash, cameras, and the hard reality that the situation has turned. Below it, one of the men on deck briefly raises both arms, then turns back toward the covered equipment. Another stops moving entirely and stands facing the bow, as if waiting for something he already knows is coming. The destroyer does not overplay the moment. It keeps distance, keeps angle, keeps initiative. By now, the sun is lifting at the edge of the horizon, and the sea is no longer black. It is steel blue, wide and cold, with the remains of the night already somewhere behind them. The 3 UAVs that came through the darkness are gone, broken apart before they could touch the ship. Their fragments are sinking into deep water, but their purpose remains visible in front of the destroyer. An observer boat, a relay point, a hidden set of eyes that believed distance and darkness would be enough. They were wrong. Back in CIC, the final picture settles into place. Inbound UAVs, coordinated geometry, post-engagement emissions, an unlit surface contact positioned beyond the horizon, evasive movement once discovered, visible attempts to interfere with onboard equipment, and silence in response to lawful challenges from a U.S. Navy aircraft and warship. The captain looks through the bridge glass at the vessel ahead, now fully visible in the first clean light of day. Hours earlier, in the dark, someone out there believed 3 UAVs could pressure an American destroyer, force a mistake, maybe even create a damaging moment before sunrise. Instead, the UAVs were intercepted over open water. Their surprise was lost. Their observer was uncovered, and the destroyer they came to challenge never lost control for a second. The captain turns away from the window. His voice is calm, almost quiet. Maintain track. We own this now. And that is how it ends in the Arabian Sea. Not with panic, not with damage, not with a destroyer caught off guard before dawn, but with a U.S. warship still moving under full control, a suspicious vessel boxed in under rising light, and the entire logic of the operation turned back against the people behind it. They came looking for a destroyer before sunrise. By sunrise, the destroyer was the one leading the search.